My journey was defined by my disability, right? I was born with eye condition that led to blindness.
What was it like when you were our age, and how did that shape how you saw yourself?
I got a point there. You're the point ma पुगेपछि what's next भनेर जब सोध्न थालेँ के गर्ने त त्यो पछि भन्दा I there was like the answer was pretty clear for me. I wanted to come back to Nepal and do something in Nepal itself.
And what made you move back to Nepal?
When there was something not working, something that just didn't feel right. And जति जति टाइम गयो जति जति मैले त्यहाँ टाइम बिताएँ अमेरिकामा that feeling started getting more strong and strong and strong. And eventually I decided to move back. Uh, but again, not because there was something, not because of one specific incident, but the overall how the thing just turned out to be.
What do you think Nepal still needs to understand better about disabilities and opportunity?
So I think that's something I want to change. That's something I'm working on changing. But again, it's gonna take lots of battle. We need to win before we can win the war. It's better to be a big fish in a small lake because you can make more impact with that.
Hello, I'm Abhyuday,
And I'm Nayantara.
and we are the co-founders of Project Young Minds.
As a part of our nonprofit, we're starting a podcast series called The Leadership Seat with Abhyuday and Nayantara.
Like many other young people, we are still figuring out our passions, and our curiosity is what inspired us to start this podcast in the first place.
In this podcast, we talk with leaders from across Nepal about their journey.
We discuss their struggles, mistakes, and advice that they wish they had at our age.
We also discuss Nepal's current business landscape and the potential and opportunities for us youths in the future.
We do not have all the answers yet, and that's what makes it exciting.
If you're a student, a young person, or just feeling unsure about what comes next, this podcast is for you.
Today we have Mr. Vibhaas Basukala, the chairperson of Karuna Foundation and also the president of Karkhana Samuha. Vibhaas Dai, as we call him with love, also lives with partial blindness and is legally blind.
We've also worked with Vibhaas in Karkhana Samuha and recently completed our project through our nonprofit. We've absolutely loved working with him, and we want our friends, you, the audience, to also know his story. So thank you very much for being a part of our podcast.
Thank you for having me. My first podcast, a little nervous, but yeah, thank you. Very excited to be here.
While we are talking to you about our podcast, you shared some glimpses of your story. That left us very intrigued, and we are looking forward to hearing the full story today. So let's get started.
Now, Vibhaas, before we get into the specifics, we wanted to ask you about your journey so far. So what was it like? What stayed constant for you or kept you going?
I think that's an interesting question. When I think about it, I think that's been very consistent. The Surusur was a necessity. Later, it became advantages. Like, I think my Suruma, the necessity to adapt. I grew up in Nepal, had an eye condition that led to me being blind. Any classes or systems, it was not necessarily designed for somebody like me. But I didn't realize what I guess literally I didn't see what I was missing out on. Hindsight I had to adapt. अब क्लासरूममा गएँ टिचरले बोर्डमा लेख्थ्यो. How do I get that information? Had to adapt. कहिले साथीलाई सोध्नु पर्यो वा had to do something else. हैन एक्जाममा कसरी दिने एक्जाम ब्रेलमा पढ्थे त टिचरहरूलाई ब्रेल थाहा थिएन. There was adaptation. And त्यो बेला चाहिँ अब अलिकति it felt like why did I have to do this extra जस्तो अलिअलि फिल हुन्थ्यो. तर बच्चै थिएँ. अहिले पछि के भयो भन्दा when that evolved and now अहिले के आउँछ भन्दा केही if life throws me a curveball or something happens professionally आत्तिन्दिन. Because there's always you can do things but in a different way possible हुन सक्छ भनेर. I think adaptability त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै consistent भयो. सुरुमा it was a necessity र अहिले आएर it became a very good skill, a very advantageous thing. So तिमीहरूलाई पनि अहिले हेर्दा you might see something just from one angle तर अलिकति पछाडि when life life goes on and when you evolve and the things that you deal with evolves, the things that you might मेरो पनि नि I didn't had the mindset जुन थियो नि had to adapt भनेर त्यो बेला it didn't came like automatically. I mean it did came automatically but it didn't came right away. पछि आफै त्यही माइन्डसेट बन्दै गयो गर्छु भनेर हुने हैन तर कहिलेकाहीँ life happens and whenever life happens it's not always bad. So yeah, adaptability, necessity to advantage. I think that's a very consistent thing that has happened in my life.
Wow, truly inspiring. So you shared earlier that you grew up dealing with partial vision loss while you were navigating schools and opportunities. So what was it like when you were our age? How did that shape how you saw yourself?
Well, I technically did not see myself because, being blind. I think I can answer this in few different ways. I have few different answers and each one like different part of my life, my different views and in some ways it's kind of oxymoronic. I don't think blindness affected my life as much. तर अरूको पर्सपेक्टिभबाट it's the biggest narrative of my life. For example, growing up, let's do this. दुईटा हाफमा डिभाइड गर्न मिल्छ. लेट्स से मेरो फर्स्ट हाफ अफ माई लाइफ लेट्स से अब अहिले 32 भयो लिटरली माई फर्स्ट हाफ 16 सम्म आई वाज इन नेपाल. नेपालमै पढेँ अनि नेपालमै हुर्केँ र आई वाज अलवेज द ब्लाइन्ड स्टुडेन्ट. आई वाज द ब्लाइन्ड किड. The blind came before my identity. अब अघि मैले भने क्लासरुममा गएँ टिचरहरूले पढायो के आयो त आई वाज द ब्लाइन्ड स्टुडेन्ट. अनि त्यसले के हुँदो रहेछ भनेदेखि एउटा when something is so prevalent for others and they cannot basically they could not see beyond my blindness, no pun intended. हैन अनि कतिपय ठाउँमा अब सपोज एउटा इन्सिडेन्ट एकदम याद आउँछ. एसएलसी दिन गएको थिएँ. अब एसएलसी दिन पनि कसरी एज आई टक्ड अर्लियर आई ह्याड टु एड्याप्ट. सो कसरी हुन्छ भनेदेखि दे गिभ यु क्वेसन पेपर अनि एकजना राइटर भनेर तपाईँको जुनियर स्टुडेन्ट असाइन गर्छ एन्ड द्याट्स हाउ इट वर्क्स इन नेपाल अहिले पनि. अनि स्टुडेन्ट असाइन गरिदिन्छ अनि यु आर प्लेस्ड इन अ डिफ्रेन्ट रुम with exam guards, invigilators, and you basically dictate your answer and the student writes down the answer. And the invigilator used to come and help me with my answers. अब त्यो बेला 10 क्लास बेला यो त कस्तो त्यो भनेर how nice, how easy. तर हाइन्डसाइडमा उसले त्यो बेला भनेको चिजहरू हाइन्डसाइडमा he did that because he thought I could not do it because I was the blind student. Charity point of view बाट view भयो. तर अहिले आएर चाहिँ अब सेकेन्ड हाफमा वन्स आई स्टार्ट ब्रडनिङ माई होराइजन इफ यु वेल के भयो भन्दा त्यो ब्लाइन्डनेस चाहिँ अहिले बिस्तारै बिस्तारै एट दिस पोइन्ट चाहिँ मेरो फुट नोटमा आउन थाल्यो होइन. आई एम दिस एन्ड द्याट एन्ड आई एम अल्सो ब्लाइन्ड एन्ड इट्स फाइन आई एम ब्लाइन्ड होइन. तर त्यो फुट नोटमा आउन थाल्यो अनि द्याट हेज अब जब त्यो फुट नोटमा आउन थाल्छ अपर्च्युनिटिजहरू तिनीहरूलाई त्यो खासै अब अपर्च्युनिटी नपाएको होइन. पहिला के हुन्थ्यो त भन्दा वेन द ब्लाइन्डनेस केम बिफोर एन्ड त्यो ब्लाइन्डनेसमै ठोकिन्थ्यो. तर अब द एन्ड कम्स बिफोर ब्लाइन्डनेस. आइ एम दिस एन्ड ब्लाइन्ड. त्यो हुन साथ के भयो भनेदेखि आई थिङ्क त्यति इफेक्ट गर्न थालेन. अब यो चिजमा चाहिँ आइ एम स्टिल कन्फ्युज इफ मै पहिला त्यति कन्सियस थिएँ द्याट्स वाइ आई ओभर थट कि एभ्रिबडी भ्युड मी अ सर्टन वे र अहिले आई स्टार्ट केयरिङ लेस अबाउट वाट अदर पिपल थिङ्क. सो आई थिङ्क त्यो भयो. अब त्यो माइन्डमा हो कि इन रियालिटी हो आई डोन्ट नो. तर द्याट्स बिन माई एक्सपिरियन्स होइन. इन नटसेल ब्लाइन्डनेस वाज मोर अफ अरूको problem than my problem. My blindness was more of अरूको problem than my problem. And but at the end of the day, it is what shaped me. Everything I experience is through, everything I see is through my blindness, essentially. The way I saw the world is through my blindness. And for me, that's normal. You might think, theoretically, if you have 2 extra hands poking out of your stomach, side bata, you would be more productive, Nita. But would you want it? Lifelong, duita hatle chalirach. Lifelong, I've been working with limited vision, and that's my reality. I don't know what it is like to be able to see more. I don't know what I would do with it. Life is really adapted to what I am right now.
So you shared earlier that you grew up dealing with partial vision loss while navigating school and opportunities. What was it like when you were our age, and how did that shape how you saw yourself?
In many ways, that was the, again, driving narrative of my young adulthood, if you will. That was the reason why I had to move to America. Not because necessarily back then I didn't want to move to America, but I had to because I couldn't find opportunities or further opportunities to study in Nepal because of that. So which directly, brought me where I am today in some ways. It shaped who I am. It shaped what I decide to be today, what I'm deciding to do now. So the whole narrative, the whole narrative is like very tricky in some ways, because it was the thing that limited me at first, but now that's the thing that became the base from which I became who I am today.
So you shared earlier that you grew up dealing with partial vision loss while navigating schools. What was it like when you were our age, and how did that shape how you saw yourself as a person?
Bacha bela, when you're young, it's a very impressionable age, Nita. You don't know what's going around you properly, but you're still curious enough. When I was kid, I didn't realize I was blind or I was disabled, and unless the society told me that, oh, you're blind, so you cannot do this, so you cannot see, you cannot do that. Even school ma summit, I was studying at a school, and they said to my parents that, oh, he cannot study here because he can't see, or we cannot provide him with the proper facility to study. So I had to move while in middle of the school year. I had to move from one school to another where they had Braille, where they could provide me with some form of accommodation. And moving school at that time and trying to adjust in a new place with new kind of you would have like you just recently came back from Dune to new school, right? The adjustment period hunsa, when you even didn't want it to move, you had your friends, you were forced to move from one place to another, and it was difficult for me to adjust. When I moved from one school to another, the fact that I was disabled became more palpable. Because I was studying in Braille, the people were all my narrative was surrounded mere disability ke waripari. Ani when we were studying ulle yo गर्न सक्दैन मा focus थियो के, rather than even at a school that provided accommodation to blind students, the conversation wasn't about what the person can do, but the conversation was what they cannot do. उले आँखा देख्दैन, math गर्न सक्दैन. Not the conversation was not about math गर्न सक्छ. अनि के हुन्छ जब तिम्रो teacher, when your teacher says, oh, you're something, that's why you cannot do that, what would you start questioning yourself, right? You start questioning what you can or cannot do, what you are actually capable of doing. And so that narrative was very prominent ke ma hurkira bela timorko age bela, and that led to lots of self-doubt, lots of self-questioning, lots of anxiety about future. There are so many things I cannot do my focus about. So yeah, that was basically very, very if you ask me, oile samako mero 30 odd years ma, that was basically the first half of my life was very not the brightest part of my life, if you will.
So on that note, Vibhaas, every journey has its tough phases, and you went through your fair share of tough phases too, right? So what do you define as, say, the hardest period in your life, professionally or personally, and what do you think helped you get through it?
I think most of my challenges, the big challenges that I life ma, the regardless when you are considered successful in your career or when you're about to start the career, challenges that I so one of the biggest challenges has always surrounded around my disability, okay? And not now, but पहिला जब म बच्चा बेला हुर्किरहेको थिएँ वा जब म पढ्छु भनेर स्कुलहरू खोज्न गएँ Suppose after 10th class, I did my SLC and tried to find a school where I could go and study, and saying that, oh, we cannot admit him because we cannot provide him with accommodation for him to continue his study. And that's a very sad experience that I went through. Like, I wanted to study. I wanted to continue my education. Tora, there wasn't school that was providing me. Before I even start my career, people told me that I cannot even start my career. Okay, so that was definitely one of the very no pun intended, very eye-opening moment for me, that my disability is limiting a lot of things in my life. Because kati sama the family they try to compensate that, family I had a good support system, that when it came to access to basic things like education, that was very challenging.
Wow, very interesting. So you've moved through so many fields over the years, from law to policy to human rights and now even nonprofits. Was there a moment where things really shifted for you or changed your directions altogether?
There wasn't one big moment, aha moment, the more I got into these different fields, I realized कि यो एउटा single field ले मात्र केही पनि अरू fieldमा एउटा single field independently हुँदैन रहेछ. It's always tangled with some other field. Suppose law or policy are very closely interlinked. Law मात्रै पढेर you're applying the law भयो. But you realize कि sometimes you are applying the wrong law, or the law that you don't agree with. So के गर्ने त त्यो मोमेन्टमा you start advocating for policy changes, किनभने policy becomes law, एक प्रकारले policy, and when you start making policies, you're shaping the law that is being enforced. So basically more different field मा त गएँ, that it somehow is intertwined with one another, and my व्यक्तिगत personally what I am interested in or passionate about. Only that same thing led to human rights advocacy मा पनि try गरेँ, त्यसमा पनि I worked on it, and it all led back to education मै कसरी आयो भन्दा, personally one of the biggest element that changed who I am is education. And I genuinely believe कि a country, a society cannot change without people within that society having good education. Education does not necessarily just means degree. It means having certain skills, learning about the world, सबै चाहिँ education मै आयो. So law, policy, it all एक ठाउँमा छ, तर all the roads led to education नै भयो के. Education भन्नाले access to education मा. So अहिले जुन non-profit मा what I'm working on is ensuring the access to education.
So you said that they're all interlinked in some sort of way, but do you ever feel that even though they are very similar, you've just failed to adapt sometimes, and then just thought that maybe it's better if I just went back?
त्यो आउँछ. You have those moments where you question everything, that sometimes when most of the times when you have your foundation right, those thoughts you just need to talk yourself out of it sometimes, right? When you go, you will face failures. You don't want to do things, or you're not able to do things that you want to because of various things, not always because things are not meant to be, but because it takes some time. So आउँछ त्यस्तो thought, but गर्न त पर्यो नि. I might not be the one who's gonna cross the finishing line. I think the way I see it is, I'm the one who's gonna pass the baton to the next person, and the next person will pass the baton to somebody else, and eventually somebody will cross the finishing line and get the get what I'm working for done in the future.
In the previous answers, Vibhaas, you briefly mentioned that you were in the US at one point. So what was it like there, and what made you move back to Nepal?
I think I think I need to give credit where it's due. मैले अघि सुरुमा भने बेला नेपालमा हुन्जेलसम्म my disability became the narrative of my existence. म को हो के हो, it always. But America, once I moved to America, once I got access to accommodations and things changed. My perspective of myself changed. It gave me some level of confidence that I can do this. I'm not I'm not necessarily restricted, but rather the form, the society, the structure of the society is what's restricting me. Josto bhayo ke त्यो एउटा realize चाहिँ भयो भने so I think I need to give credit where it's due. America made me who I am. It gave me the confidence. It gave me the opportunity. It gave me the freedom to be who I am, and it gave me an opportunity to become who I want to be. Who I want to be was and is perhaps somebody that may evolve. Who I want to be as I grow, as I evolve my who I want to be evolved. But yeah, America definitely gave me that, and so my experience was. At first, it was amazing, but as I spent time there, I realized I always felt like I was out of my comfort zone. Nepal je bhaye pani, I was certain level ko comfort zone थियो. तर Americama, I stayed there, I lived there, I worked there, I had my friends there. तर जे भयो there was something not working, something that just didn't feel right. And जति time गयो, जति मैले त्यहाँ time बिताएँ Americama, that feeling started getting more strong and strong and strong. And eventually I decided to move back. But again, not because there was something, not because of one specific incident, but the overall how the thing just turned out to be.
So, you did say in your previous answers that some schools were not, helping you with your disability and all. So, what do you think Nepal still needs to understand better about disabilities and opportunity?
I think Nepal मात्रै हैन, यो understanding of disability मैले चाहिँ कसरी view गर्छु भनेदेखि, for example, Abhyuday, there is, how tall are you?
Rather not say.
Okay. Let's say you're 5'5", right? So let's say there is a cupboard that's 7 feet tall, and you need to get something from the top of the cupboard. You cannot get that. You need to get it. You cannot get that. But you can find some other way to get it, right? You can get a stool, get on top of it, and get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I view it. Disability is a characteristic. It's not necessarily good or bad. For example, your height, it's not good or bad. The fact that you're not able to get the stuff from top of the cupboard, that's the problem, right? So we're focusing on your height too much. We're focusing on your height, not the fact that is not necessarily limiting you. That is not necessarily what's the problem. The problem is you're not being able to get it. So how did you get it? You got a stool, you got on top of it, you got the stuff, got done. So I think too much of policy, too much of things are focused on making you taller. Too much of energy is focused on your height. But unfortunately, that's a battle that we're going to lose in long run, right? We might give you supplements and you might get taller. Or you might go and get a painful, expensive surgery and extend your leg and you might get taller. But is that the goal to get you? I don't want to get taller. I want the freaking thing from top of the cupboard. So not enough energy or not enough resources, not just in Nepal, but around the world, is focused on giving the stool. Okay? The stool diyo and the problem solved bhayo ni. Height ma kino focus garne? Why are you focusing on disability too much? Focus on accessibility. In this case, if I'm blind, give me accessible technology that will bridge the gap between what I ought to do, what I need to do versus what I'm able to do without it. So I think that's the problem. Again, comes back to how you frame the problem. So I think that's something I want to change. That's something I'm working on changing. But it's gonna take lots of battle we need to win before we can win the war.
So Vibhaas, we know that you work with a lot of young people and you like working with a lot of young people. Similarly, we really like working with you. But, having worked with so many people of this generation, what stands out to you among, say, the youth in this generation? So what strengths do you see in us?
I think your generation, the current you are very connected throughout the world, right? You're a global generation. Thanks to internet, thanks to all the social media, people are aware of what's happening. And that there's one good thing about that is like it broadens your perspective. पहिला पहिला जब हामीसँग यो ग्लोबल भ्यू गर्ने सोसियल मिडियाहरू हुँदैन थियो, when we don't have the access to things what's happening around the world, हाम्रो mindset पनि त्यही हिसाबले फ्रेम हुन्थ्यो. तर right now you're able to get everything, all the knowledge around the world is accessible. And there is a bad side to that as well, but the good side is that it broadens your generational perspective. It makes them more critical thinker in some ways if they want to. They just get one information and that's the truth for them. But now, I know you guys can go and check. You guys can go and see if it's true or not. You can think for yourself. And I think that's majority because of everything that has been possible due to internet and the accessibility of internet. Internet the 1990s मा पनि थियो नि त, तर अहिले के छ भन्दाखेरि नेपालमा internet accessible छ अहिले तिमीहरूको generationमा. So that gives you the again, it's a responsibility, it's a power. With power comes big responsibility. But I think your generation is definitely more global generation, more open to new things, more open to differences, if you will.
So since we're in the topic of social media and the internet, do you actually think that social media has also pulled our generation down more than it has actually helped us?
Again, you would say agigai question, it's a framing problem. Was your height problem or your height not being able to get the stuff from the cupboard? I don't think social media itself is the problem.
It's how it's being used.
Yeah, it's how it's being used and how sometimes it's being villainized, or how sometimes I just used social media as one of the good tools that has, made this generation more global. It's I think social media itself is not supposed to be not supposed to solve all the problems, and I don't think it's supposed to be the source of all the problems. I think there needs to, and I think we are working on that as well. But one of the big things is social media education. You need to know what you can or cannot do from social media, what you should or should not do from social media. It comes to you. It comes down to you, how you use it. Of course, it's been used. The bullying, the harassment, online bullying is a big issue that would not have existed without social media. But so many of current economy, digital marketing, video editing, all the even this podcast, and the economy that is reliant upon this, it wouldn't have existed without social media either. So yeah, what you said is true, but the flip side of it is also true. Social media has enabled a lot of people to do a lot of things.
So the pros outweigh the cons?
No, I'm not saying that. It's for you to decide if the pros outweighs the con. But I think the world is a better place, a more connected place because of the social media, and the world is a little more dangerous place again because of the social media. So it's a double-edged sword.
Okay. So for students like us who want to build a meaningful career in the future and lead with purpose, so what do you think is one skill that we should start learning right now from early on that will actually benefit us in the near future?
One skill.
Yes.
I think emotional intelligence. No, not just the best way to portray is like the generation, again, connected generation. You have access to all the knowledge, right? Knowing that, I think the best example of this is like knowing ki tomato is a fruit, not a vegetable, but not including tomato in the fruit salad once. Okay, you need to. Your generation. One of the things I see lacking is emotional intelligence. Human to human touch. Knowing what's, again, it comes back to social media as well. Right छ wrong छ हैन, त्यसलाई कसरी interpret गर्छ, कसरी बुझ्छ, त्यो skill is lacking जस्तो लाग्छ अहिले, and partially it is because of social media again. it creates that degree of separation where you lack the ability to connect with a person in real life. That you need that connection. You need that. You're not going to be successful just because of great degrees or hard work. You get successful when you have the right support system supporting you. And the way you build that support system is through connecting with them beyond more of a personally build on a personal relationship build on a and where the emotional intelligence is very important.
These are definitely deep things that I feel like we as youths should think more about rather than, say, solely relying on social media or like the internet before, doing things or carrying out tasks, right? Now, before we end the podcast, we really want to lighten the mood by maybe asking some fun questions. So what is your all-time favorite movie, Vibhaas?
All-time favorite movie, Hangover. The first Hangover movie.
Do we know that movie?
Oh, you should. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. That's what I think. That's a good. Oh, yeah. Do you know? Have you watched it? The Hangover. It's a series. They have 3 movies.
We should watch it though.
Oh yeah, we should.
So what is your favorite song right now?
Right now, I think it just changes every day. To be honest, I'm listening to lots of Taylor Swift azkal. Her new album, but it really shifts. Sometimes Sushant Casey ka song aru, sometimes it just changes based on my how I feel that day.
What's your favorite Sushant Casey song?
Bardali.
Mine is Maya.
Oh yeah, that's a good song.
And what are some hobbies or interests that you do in your free time?
I'm learning how to code azkal because I think it's getting a hobby to no bano. It's an interest that I have developed because we are with AI and everything. I'm trying to learn how to code.
So if there was one superpower, any superpower in the entire world that you could pick from, which one would it be?
Superpower. That's a good question. I think the ability to read people's mind. I think that's a very good superpower. You can because people are very complex, and to be able to know what they're thinking, I think that could be a game changer.
I also agree.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though that would increase or improve your EQ?
Yes, I think so. But I think that's a cheat. That's you're cheating the process as well. When you know what they're thinking, you're not improving your emotional intelligence, but you're getting the benefit of having high EQ. Right?
Also, Vibhaas, since we're on the topic of youths, I feel like Hajurlai pan tha cha, aajkal what's emphasized more is that we as youths, we study +2 summa ita Nepalma, and then we go abroad for our further studies. And many youths, many people, they try to also settle abroad. So what are your views on this? Why do you think this is happening? And say, do you promote this? Because like, Paila Hajurko answer ma pani, you mentioned briefly that, hey, US gave you opportunities that you wouldn't have gotten back in Nepal. So what do you think of all this?
There's so much to learn, right? And if you, what I have realized is ki, going back to why I actually went, I want to start from there. After 10 class, as I mentioned earlier, I couldn't find an education institution that would give me, accommodation to continue my education. So we started researching and found out that I could go to America. They could give me all the accommodations I need. So I moved to America, and Mojaba America Puge, when I saw all the wonderful things, all the possibilities, I never wanted to come back to Nepal at first, Suruma. Never. I thought, oh my gosh, this is everything I could have ever imagined. Right? So I learned. Then I realized slowly, my perspective shift hunday gayo. As I mentioned earlier, slowly I started realizing what's next. So if you ask me, I think if you have the opportunity and ability, go and broaden your horizon. And one of the ways you can do that is by going abroad, not just for your intellectual rigor, but also it teaches you life skills. It teaches you how to be self-sufficient, how to be independent. To sabai skill hone garera, I think it makes more impactful if you can use those skills here in Nepal rather than uta. It's better to be a big fish in a small lake because you can make more impact with that. And studying there, studying abroad, and moving back to Nepal, you'll be that big fish that can make bigger impact here. So yeah, what I suggest to your generation is get all the opportunities you can get. And for many people, that opportunity may be going abroad and studying. Take that opportunity, but do something, make that impact, contribute back to where you came from. Try to make sure ki the opportunities, the things that you had to travel to get, haina, timro next generation can get many of those without traveling abroad. Contribute back to the society.
All right. Thank you so much for today, Vibhaas. It was really insightful to, have this conversation with you. I feel like we as youths, but also we as Nepal, a country, can learn a lot from your life story and, everything that you shared with us today.
Thank you, Vibhaas. And thank you all for listening to our podcast, The Leadership Seat, with Abhyuday and Nayantara. And I will see you on the next one.
A special thank you to Prime College for supporting us and also Monal D for guiding us throughout.
Bye.